This is the Doug Stanhope and the Amsterdam comedy Swapcast.
Yeah, that's right.
And if you've not heard the term before, it's anytime, because every comic has a podcast, and they all have comics on their podcast that also have their own podcast. But they only put it out as one or the other. If you both have a podcast, why don't put it out on both of your fucking podcasts as a Swapcast? I coined the term, and you should steal it and use it.
So I'm Jonathan Groubert. I'm the journalist.
I'm Gregory Shapiro, the comedian with the journalist.
And over there's Ajay.
Yep.
AJ is our Swapcast guest.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
he is a mutual friend that I know from Bisbee, and you now know from stand-up comedy.
In Amsterdam.
In Amsterdam.
Yes.
And you're our guest in a way. And in a certain way, we're your guest.
That's the Swapcast.
See how it
Trademarked
works?
Stanhope 2015, open share, open source.
And we're in the Amsterdam Hilton that was made famous with the John and Yoko love-in.
That's right. The bed-in. The bed-in. The bed-in.
And you have
right.
the same view that they did.
Yeah, not the same room. Probably a better room.
Yeah, you got a balcony.
Actually, I can tell you that it's not the same room because I remember seeing it and they just had windows from behind the bed, whereas you've got like half the room has windows on two sides. You got like 90 degrees worth of windows. It's beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's we upgraded because I asked if they had a smoking room, and they go, no, only the junior suites have balconies. It's a non-smoking hotel, but if you have a junior suite, you have a balcony. And I go, fucking upgrade me. I don't care how much it costs.
Nice.
And also this hotel is famous for one other thing. You probably haven't heard of him, but there's a guy named Herman Brood. Brood in Dutch, Herman Brood, who was in the 70s and the early 80s. He was actually a pretty famous rocker. He was married to Nina Hagen for a while. He was probably the Netherlands' most famous punk rocker.
That guy, he jumped off the
Yes.
Yeah.
jumped off the top floor and killed himself.
That's right. It was his greatest work of art.
God.
He was indeed a visual artist, a painter, and his works are actually,
Yeah, it ended up a Pollock.
if you will,
Splatter art.
Yeah. Actually, his art's not that different in real life. It was a bit splatter. Oh, gosh. Jesus.
Oh, I don't know. Can we make that joke? Oh, wait a minute. It's
made.
It's the Doug Stanhope.
Yeah, that's the Doug Stanhope podcast can take all the credit for anything that you'd get in trouble for.
Actually, it's very funny because we were researching this to talk to you, Doug. I also want to talk to you, AJ, because I think you got quite a story.
Yeah.
But we were researching this to talk to you, Doug. Right on your Wikipedia page, it has categories of comedy on there. And one of the categories that was on the page, and I shit you not, because I didn't make this up, cringe comedy.
Cringe humor was actually I might still be. It was a website, and a bunch of guys like Robert Kelly, I think, ran it, or they toured with cringe comedy as a name. So I think they coined cringe comedy.
How do you feel about that term applied to you?
I don't mind it. I thought you were going to say death comedy,
No.
like death metal.
There's also cringe comedy as well in the Netherlands, and there are
For the wrong reasons?
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, I mean there are people who deliberately try to shock the audience, but in my mind, the jokes are
Yeah, no, I
secondary.
cringe at that. I get emails from new comics that like try out their material, and it's just, just saying the words in a row. Retard, cunt, this
Right.
baby, and
It's like a checklist.
right.
There were some things that you said, because I saw your act the other day. There were a few things you said that made me cringe. Cringe with delight, but I cringed. Nevertheless, I mean, I knew what I was in for.
Well, let's say it this way. I will ask the actual question here.
Go ahead, do it.
For people who don't even know Doug Stanhope, you even referenced on stage the other night what people come to expect. Your own fan base comes to expect from a Doug Stanhope show. I mean, how much do you feel like you need to pay that off? And what can we expect from a Doug Stanhope show?
Oh, that's the worst question in the world.
No, I'll go back to the
What
first
can
one.
we expect? No, this whole tour. What can we expect? Just go on YouTube and look at my old shit.
No, I
and
know
it's going to
that.
be like that with different topics.
But do you? I don't know. Do you feel like you've got a niche that you need to break out of, or is
No,
it just
I
like,
don't want to break out of it. It's just
Yeah.
finding more topics to talk about that I give a shit about.
Yeah.
Because the older you get, the more you've done, 25 years now, every topic that I'm passionate about, I've reworked, twisted inside out, tried to fuck at a different angle, and then try to have new stuff to be angry at or have a good point.
But let me be clear about this. I mean, I found myself laughing my ass off at a phrase like "fuck kids with cancer."
All right, but inside the bit,
but it was really
inside
funny.
the bit, it's about vanity,
Right.
And the silliness. I don't want to. I'm not going to burn material, but there is a point to that bit about how our vanity of personal appearance is, how high up that is. And using kids with cancer, sure, it starts out coarse, but that's what makes it funny. If I just made the point, then I'm a fucking orator.
No, I realize I'm pulling it out of context, and if I just throw out the terms "fuck kids with cancer" without it being in the context of your actual act, it sounds even worse than it is, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
So let that lie.
But
I'll be recording this for a DVD soon, I hope, and then you can find out what the point of "fuck kids with cancer."
Yes, that's right. But I think the thing is when I walked out of the show afterwards, I had something of a sense of guilty pleasure after walking out of it, because on the one hand, many of the things that you said, of course, made perfect sense. That's the reason why they were funny. There was a universal truth to them. Yes, this thing that he just said that I feel very uncomfortable repeating, actually makes a lot of sense, which is why it was funny. If it didn't make sense, it wouldn't be funny. It would just be coarse. But because there's a logic to it, it's funny. But how do you want people to feel when they walk out of your show?
I don't give a shit.
Really?
I play to amuse myself, because the cliche that I'm my toughest audience or my toughest critic, I am, because if I'm not having fun, and once I've said it, I'm not having fun anymore. So every night I'm just looking for something that's funny to say that I've never said, because I know the bulk of it is shit I've already said over and over again to different audiences.
Do you really not care what people think when they walk out of the show? Look, I understand as an artist you need to please yourself. That's a healthy way of working in life, not just
generally,
in this.
if you're having fun, it comes across to the audience. So if your act is so fucking tired that, a lot of times I start getting silly with things and just adding nonsense descriptives, just anything to amuse myself. Cause if I'm bored up there, you're going to be able to tell. And that's why I drink. I hate to use my own catchphrase. Because if I had to go up sober and listen to my fucking act again, at least drinking gives me some perspective or some balls to go in a wrong direction that might fail, but it still makes it different.
I have to call you on this a little bit, because when I watched your act, it was very, very well crafted. I mean, it's not like you just went up there and said what was on the top of your head. I mean, you did actually. The first 10 minutes, that was shit that was off the top of your head.
I think more than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That was great.
That was the impressions that you were left with for that day and the trip over and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then when you finally got into the material, this was well-crafted stuff.
But first of all, are you a stand-up as well? I know.
No, I'm
Greg
a journalist.
Shapiro
I'm a
is.
journalist.
Okay.
I'm a journalist. So I'm the audience, really. I come to it as the person who's sitting there receiving it.
I don't know how Greg feels about it, but if I can do even a minute, much less 10, of riffing on whatever's going on in the news, in my life, in the day, in the moment, it makes the rest of your act feel fresh.
Yeah.
So you carry that momentum into, all right, I've said this shit before, but I'm already on a roll of actually talking about stuff that's off the top of my head, or, that I thought of right before I went up. And that carries into the act.
Uh-huh. Well, what do you think people are feeling after they've seen your show?
I don't ask. Now,
the question was, what do you think they're feeling?
I mean, it still sucks if you die a miserable death and you get shitty tweets. That doesn't make me happy.
Right.
But I've had great shows where the audience fucking hated me, and I did exactly what I wanted to do. And I killed me. And that, I'd rather walk out of a show having killed my girlfriend, if Bingo was high-fiving and laughing and oh my God, and I wrote that down and that's funny and my manager's happy. If I was booed off stage, I'd rather be booed off stage doing an act that's making me have fun than get a standing ovation for just blowing through some fucking phoned in garbage.
It sounds like that's happened. Like you've gotten booed off stage, but triumphantly.
Yeah, I'm sure it's happened. It's been a while.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going to jump in and bring a bit of a parallel, because for listeners of this podcast, one of the recent episodes that we did was with Brendan Burns. And I don't know, maybe there's some compare and contrasting, but one thing that he said was you got to do the gig. You got to do, it's like 25 years, that it might take. Did he say 25 or like, he said like 15, 20 years, that you do the gig, until you find out what you really are doing or the purpose or what you want to say.
It's different for everyone. And you get those emails a lot, but like how long before you really found your voice? And people tend to give answers like what worked for you is 15 years. Well, no, for me, it was probably 9. It's different for
9
everyone.
Before what? You felt like you knew what you were doing.
Where I felt like I had a voice. Not I found my voice, but I had opinions because I started at 23 and my opinion was I want to get pussy. And that was all I'm trying to get laid after the show, and that's success. So, yeah, when I actually started having opinions and saying, I would write to get a laugh when I first started. I didn't care what I was saying. Will this elicit laughter? So there was no opinion to it. It's just dumb. Even if I disagreed with it, if I thought it would work, I'd do it. I didn't give a shit. Just dumb fucking hackney kind of. And then I started, trying real shit, and it felt a lot better.
You say this is really interesting to me because the other thing that I observed about all this was when I watched you up there sort of crawling the stage. You did a long show, by the way, a lot longer than other comedians I've seen. Maybe a good solid hour longer even. And I thought to myself, this is a guy who kind of needs to be up there.
No,
you don't need this mode of expression?
No.
Because it didn't seem like a coincidence. Tell me.
I've done, when I finish this tour, I will have done 31 dates in a year. So I took 7 months off, did 10 dates in Canada over 2 weeks, and then another 2 months off, and then did this tour.
Well, then the natural question is, why do you do it? If you're saying you don't need it, and you don't really care what the audience thinks, what do you get out of it?
Well, I'm not really ready to retire financially at 48 years old.
Is it just for the money?
A lot of that time, I got a book deal, so I was writing, so I had to take that time off. And this is the end of the run of this material. I've played this everywhere they speak English, and now I'm going to have to start over from scratch as soon as we tape this.
Right. So. But what do you get out of it then? Because I'm saying what I observed. You're denying it, everything that I've said. You're saying you don't need this shit. I don't care what they fucking think.
My point is, 7 months off, I never thought, fuck, I need to get on stage. I've thought, I need to get out of town. I need to get on an airplane. I need to go somewhere. I need to fly. But I never felt like I need applause.
So what do you get? Why do you do it? Other than money?
Money.
Really, it's just money?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I still have to, I have quality control. Like, it's not like I'm just going to go out and sell the same bullshit. If I'm going to sell the ticket, I'm going to, write the material and put in the effort.
What do you think, AJ? Is he telling the truth here?
Well, when I first met Doug, I was crashing at his place in Bisbee,
Arizona,
right? And one morning,
how did we meet?
Okay, so I was in the Army.
This is not an odd question for me and my friends. Like, how do I know you anyway?
So I was in the Army, and I was familiar with Doug's comedy, and a friend of mine from high school actually dated. My friend Tracy dated gay cousin Eric.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this sounds familiar.
And you had been to Thanksgiving with her. So I get stationed at Fort Huachuca, which is in the ass end of Arizona. It's not too far from Bisbee. And I saw the sign for Bisbee, and I thought, that sounds familiar. How do I know this? And I said, well, maybe it was Stanhope. So I look up. Sure enough, he lives in Bisbee. I send him an email. I said, hey, I've seen you in all these states. My friend Tracy dated gay cousin Eric. Small world, huh? And
It is. That's unique and weird.
And so within a couple hours, he had sent me an email back that said, come to the show in Tucson this weekend, find me afterwards, come to the house, watch football, we'll hang out. For about the next 6 months, I was there at least 3 or 4 days a week.
And for the listeners out there, my listeners, that's because he dropped the right name, Gay Cousin Eric. So all you people who keep randomly emailing me saying, hey, can I come over for football? Can I come to the Super Bowl party? No. If you're in Bisbee, anyway, you can drop me an email. And if I'm in the mood, maybe we'll have a cocktail. Yeah. If I'm home and awake, but don't come to Bisbee to watch football. It's not going to happen.
And I believe.
And now back to the story.
Right, yeah. Okay.
So one morning, I wake up, I'm hungover, I go into the kitchen, I'm making myself a little breakfast, and Doug, I'm quiet. He doesn't know that I'm in the kitchen. He's watching infomercials on television at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning.
As one will do.
And he starts prank phone calling the mesothelioma law line, saying, excuse me, I think I've got the mesotheliomas and I need to talk to someone. And just with like the biggest...
What is mesothelioma? What is that?
It's a type of cancer caused by asbestos. And you're flooded with commercials in the States. Do you have mesothelioma or someone you know has died? Call the law offices of such and such. In fact, that's one of my t-shirt ideas is to, I want to make a series of disease t-shirts, but with flowery, like graphics, like juvenile diabetes, but it's all bubbly, happy 1960s font with flowers, like you're promoting diseases. And mesothelioma would have the S with a big dollar sign in it. It just say mesothelioma, cha-ching.
Those are those tiny, adorable little tumors.
Yeah.
You get, yeah,
in the abdomen. It's
so
great.
I'm calling, evidently, the law offices of James P. Sokolov, mesothelioma.
Yeah. Yeah. And just and pranking them hard. He's got the biggest, most childish grin on his face and just killing himself. And he hangs up eventually. He keeps him on the line. It's a game to see how long he can keep him on the line. It's like 15, 20 minutes. Eventually they hang up on him.
They hang up on him.
They hang up on him.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's just chuckling to himself. And I come out of the kitchen where I've been kind of peeking around the corner, and he goes, oh shit, you heard that? Like, it was all for himself. It was an audience of one, a set containing one member.
An audience of zero, really.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah. And
what did you think? Because this is obviously story-worthy. So what did you think when you thought to yourself, shit, he didn't even know I was here. He just did that for himself. What'd you think?
Well, at first I just wanted to know where the fucking hot sauce was for my eggs. But then as I thought about it, I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense.
But AJ,
yeah,
and this is why I was so thankful that you had podcasting equipment that you were willing to travel with, because AJ's got stories.
Apparently, so Brian said, stories that
I heard he
are not even publicly available for telling.
I wanted to get your backstory first,
Yeah.
but you don't want to follow him.
No.
So let's get Greg.
Yeah,
Ask
sure.
a question
This
to
is
Greg.
Greg Shapiro.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, funny. Okay, sure.
Right, because I name checked you at the show.
Yeah, I was,
as a local comic.
that was actually, that was really nice afterward.
Well, you have the name Greg Shapiro, so
Yeah.
I thought someone was fucking up Rick Shapiro's name.
Or George Shapiro, which I get a lot from
George.
Seinfeld, the producer guy. Yeah. Yeah.
But you're an American?
And I came to take a job here for one summer with Boom Chicago Comedy Theater. 20 years later, I'm still here. We just came to Amsterdam for like just one summer to try things out, and we never left. So I've gone native.
Is that we, as in like wife, kids?
I'm actually married to a Dutch woman now.
She used to
I'm
not
sorry,
be a woman?
you got me thinking all these transgender things. But no, it's a bunch of us that knew each other from high school, actually. We grew up outside of Chicago, moved over here to try to do like a second city anywhere but Chicago. And it's an improv comedy theater.
Are you still doing that, or are you just doing stand-up now?
Right now, I've actually bridged that sort of gap because I started doing improv, and that's when the improv community there was no crossover in those Venn diagrams. Like,
There shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I'm all for segregation when it comes to sketch comedy and stand-up.
Yeah. But I mean, stand-up comedians really looked at improv as just like, what a fucking hour-long whack-off, masturbation session. And then,
Good comics do.
And then, and indeed, a lot of improvisational comedians were like, well, we just don't do stand-up. That's just the same every night. There's a bit of truth of what you were just saying. You can't just like do your act every night and go home.
But here's the thing that everybody wants to know, Greg.
Yeah.
That I'm going to tell just to sort of make things, smooth things along faster.
Yeah.
And that is, he is an American stand-up comedian and professional presenter who makes a living doing this in a country where English is not the first language.
That was never going to be my question, the English, but is it big enough to make a living over here?
It is. Yeah. Yeah. And actually, Seth Meyers started out over here, actually. Other names like, Jordan Peele.
Key and Peele.
Really happy to see how
kidding.
well Jordan Peele is doing. Ike Barinholtz and Jason Sudeikis and a couple
I know, but they're over there. I'm saying the
Yeah.
Netherlands, I don't even know what the population is.
17 million.
All right. Yeah. So you can, there's enough towns you can tour around. Yeah. What's his name? The guy that picked me up at the airport.
Misha Wertheim, yeah.
This guy picks me up at the airport. They go, this comic, he's a really cool comic. He's going to pick you up at the airport.
Right.
And then I'm hungover, so I don't talk during the day normally. And, he's making all these jokes. And then I show up at the club and his DVD is on display, in a display case.
Yeah.
And they go, yeah, he's one of the bigger comics in the Netherlands.
In this
and I
country.
Go, and you're the fucking guy. You make that guy pick me up at the airport and you have his fucking DVD in a display case? Jesus.
It was just an Uber pop. Actually, you were not supposed to talk about it at all. Pretend like you don't know who he is.
Some of them have water bottles in the car. He has jokes.
But you don't just do that. You do other things. Like you'll do corporate presentations and things like that as
Honestly,
well, right?
yeah. And I'm working on my own, I'm trying to make something like a daily show for the EU. And, that's with this production company. And we're doing, I'm hosting an app and co-hosting a podcast. And it keeps me busy.
You are like one of the busiest people I know.
Thank you.
I asked him, like, how many meetings do you take a week
Oh.
to keep your career going? And he was like, oh, I don't know, not many, like 5.
That includes, yeah, fine.
Dude, you're busy.
yeah.
You make this shit. You make this happen. That, to be honest, that's like your greatest talent is your ability to sort of like make work happen.
All right.
Like I can't do that.
You almost just said he's not funny.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah. In fact, what was funny to me the other night was that you were looking for, this is when you were riffing about touring all over Europe, and the Misha Wertheim reference was like, that would be analogous to me performing across the street from, I don't know, what's a well-known comedian
You're
here.
funny, Greg.
And
You're funny.
I know. But then I think the connotation in your bit the other night was like,
Well, I use Michael McIntyre as a reference in the UK, and that killed. And so now I'm in the Scandinavian countries, and I'm trying to ask people well, all right, what's a comedian that is opposite of me that's huge, that would sell out in an arena? Russell Peters would probably work anywhere in the world.
There you go. Yeah.
But yeah, so last night, after I fucked it up the first night in Amsterdam, when I'm asking shit, I asked someone for a reference, and she gives me Geert Ootsen.
Okay.
And nobody,
Yeah.
she's like, so I
Never heard of him.
I didn't fact check it. This is some girl Hennigan's hanging around with.
Okay.
But she's from here. And so I just Google searched him, and he's this old guy, and the image that comes up on Google is him doing the 5 fingers, thumb to the nose.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, that seems like the guy. But fucking nobody at all anywhere knew who the fuck I was talking about.
Yeah. And, well, anyway, that's how my name came up in the Doug Stanhope show.
Although it was
the other
AJ,
night.
the gentleman over here, who was the one who said it, right?
Yeah, he's the one that yelled it.
Right.
Yeah.
He
bless you.
he wanted to name check you, man.
Yeah, that was great. I was sinking lower in my chair, but
The laugh from the comics in the back was.
well,
nice.
let me get to this moment as well. So, there were moments that you were trying to come up with an example from the audience. What do you do for a living?
Yeah.
And that was also a
And
couple
those,
times. that-
again, as a bit, I don't have to go into the audience.
Exactly.
But I did anyway because it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Just to ask them, hey, what do you do? As it doesn't matter what they do. The bit's going to be the same. But rather than make up a bit, it breaks it up.
yeah.
It's any little thing that breaks up my fucking voice and lets the audience go, ooh, something might happen here.
Yes.
Sorry, I was off the mic.
And it ends up being more it's self-referential as well. That you're commenting self-aware, as you go. That was that moment to me when you were riffing the other night. Did you ever talk about the Dublin?
Hang on, I want to get back
sorry.
to You're Not Funny.
Yeah. Oh, let's do that.
No.
I'm the Michael Meyer of Dutch comedy. Yes. Michael McIntyre. Yeah.
My point was the fact that you are this industrious.
Yes.
Now, this is my point, is generally the most ambitious comedians are the least talented. That was the joke. I'm not saying you're not talented. I'm explaining why I made that reference. Because generally, don't you find the guys that have the slickest package and the best website and they're making calls all day long are the fucking shittiest comics, and the best comics are the guys you can't fucking... The other Shapiro.
Yeah.
Rick Shapiro.
Yeah.
I think he's brilliant to watch.
Right.
But I would never want to fucking tour with him. He can't fucking... In fact, the last time I did work with him, I was over here at some music festival, and we're all sitting there. I told him, hey, the shuttle's going to be up front in 10 minutes. And then we're waiting outside 20 minutes later, and I go beat on his door, and he's sleeping. He hasn't even, I haven't even packed. I go, I just talked to you.
Yeah.
Half an hour. He's that much of a fuck up.
The last time that he was touring in the Netherlands, he didn't make it. That show did not happen.
Yeah. Otto and George, who died a couple years ago. Do you know Otto and George?
Fantastic.
He had such as a puppet act, but a horrible ventriloquist, but filthy. Did you ever see a black vagina? It looks like a wallet. The lady spread her legs, a bus pass, and some change fell out. Miss, you dropped your visa.
Otto and
You can't talk to the nice people like that, George. Shut your fucking mouth. Your lips move. Your jokes stink. You're a crack addict and you don't show up for gigs. This is the puppet yelling at him in front of industry at a Chicago comedy festival.
Right.
You fucking loser. You're a nothing. You're a crack addict and you don't show up for gigs. Listen, George. Let's be nice to the people. You know what I hate? Black guys with tattoos. Hey, look at my tattoo, brother. Hey, look at my tattoo. I can't see your tattoo. You should have done it in whiteout, you filthy circus ape. Okay, George, we can't talk to the nice people like this. That was, I remember cringing.
So that's cringe. So
That's cringe.
We bring back to.
So we've answered the question. What makes stand-up cringe?
Yeah, that's
Done.
well. He was that guy like Rick Shapiro, where they co-headlined me on a XXX rated bill with Otto and George because they could not headline him because he might not show up. So they had to co-headline in case he doesn't show up. They know another XXX rated guy.
That is so nice that we have coined the term Swapcast today, and that's the first time I've ever heard of co-headlining, which is, to segue into another of your themes, a nice way to deal with people with mental...
Well, I saw coming up at Toomler, I saw what's his name? Dave Fulton and Phil Nickel.
Phil Nickel, yeah.
Co-build.
Yes.
So that's co-headlining.
Co-headlining, sure.
Yeah, co-build. I don't know how would you say that, but their names are together for that week.
Yeah.
Come see these two guys. It's not like they're doing a Abbott and Costello act. Two separate stand-ups.
Co-headlining. But anyway, well...
How did you meet AJ?
I was hosting me?
Yes.
Greg Shapiro
AJ
here.
is our guest today here on the Doug Stanhope Amsterdam comedy Swapcast.
I was hosting an open mic in the city of Amsterdam at a restaurant with no lighting, no stage, and barely a microphone. But we turned it into it was a great crowd.
Oh, that's why you get so much work here.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Because you'll play in a fucking Subway. Oh, yeah, I work 7 nights a week.
No, but he will. Let me just jump in here. The dude is fucking fearless. He will play any place, anytime. If people are willing to sit down and listen to him, the dude will stand up and start doing stuff.
I am happy. I just recalled today I performed stand-up in the business class section of a 747.
Holy shit.
And it was not bad. It's so quiet up there.
Now, how did that happen? 'Cause that's a fucking great story. I've seen Joey Coco Diaz where they tricked the lady into letting him get on the mic with Joe Rogan.
No, yeah,
and he started singing, "It's raining, it's pouring, my love life is boring me to tears." And they let him go. But how did you pull that off in business class?
It was this thing with KLM, and another example of how it kind of pays off. Every time, you want to get out, they keep pulling you back in. And this is great. Okay, KLM. This is a pretty big company.
Royal Dutch Airlines.
Exactly. And they wanted to do this promo.
Don't worry, I'm a Delta man. I have my Delta TITAC just sitting out. So we're partners.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, you chose the right ones. And anyway, with Boom Chicago, that's the comedy, a lot of corporate stuff they do, and they wanted KLM.
Wait, this was a gig?
This was a gig. And
holy shit! I thought you just stood up and did it and went, "Hey, anyone want to hear comedy? It's an 8-hour flight."
That would have been a thing, and that was, believe me, and I. By the way, this was going from a shitty restaurant doing stand up or open mic to a train. They've had us do. This is a theater company, and it's based on improv, and it's all about yes and they end up saying yes to the most preposterous, outlandish things. Like in the middle of a wedding,
passengers getting up and doing it. Or?
Wait, so you're doing?
I'm saying there's been so many gigs.
I'm confused.
Yeah,
but the airplane. Let's stick with the airplane.
There have been so many gigs that when they said we have this, KLM seems to actually want to hire you and Pep Rosenfeld from Boom Chicago. Do your duo act. On a plane. I was like, no. I thought a Flight of the Conchords doing their thing with like the intercom. But they said, no. It's going to be an upgrade package. And I'm like, okay, keep talking. Everyone in that, I was like, how are they going to want to watch me instead of A, sleeping, or B, watching the in-flight entertainment, which is honestly better than anything I can provide?
Yeah, that's comedy against your will is horrendous.
I know. And I was like, how much are they paying me? And the free flight back to Chicago. Like, all right.
Yeah, where were you flying to?
I was straight home to Chicago for Thanksgiving. So
Amsterdam to Chicago?
Yeah. Exactly.
How much time did you have to do?
Exactly. Yeah, 20 minutes. And wow. But the thing was, everyone in that business class on that flight was upgraded. And that was the promo. What would happen if we would interview these people before and after, and every one of those people had to sign an agreement before, and that was part of our deal. They have to sign an agreement before they go in. You have to watch this comedy show.
And Amsterdam to Chicago is probably 11 hours.
8 or 9 hours, actually. Yeah.
All right. Well,
it's long.
So, well, back to Atlanta is 10 for us.
Exactly.
So it's a long fucking flight.
Yeah, long haul.
And if I can't name a comedian bad enough that I would not take the upgrade. The worst comic in the world.
Right.
I would sit next to a screaming baby.
Yeah.
To get up to first class for a 10-hour flight. Hell yeah.
Yeah. And so being the Michael McIntyre of Dutch comedy, I was happy to sign up actually. And, I was ready for this just to be the worst gig, and it'll be another great story, and we get a free trip back to Chicago.
Were they into it?
You have no idea how I'm into flying. I fly for no reason. I just fly around. I just get status, and so I'm intrigued by.
Yeah.
When did you have to go up? Early in the flight?
Early, right away.
All right.
Basically, we hit cruising altitude, and that was curtain up,
spotlight,
and and it was like a special themed. It was like a Christmas thing as well, a Christmas holiday, getting ready for that.
What time was it?
It was taking off at 11, 12. And then
So daytime comedy. Already terrible.
Yeah. And, we had like, do we bother to close the windows and put lights on? Not really.
Where did you stand?
In the nose of the plane facing like backward.
Okay. So like the pilot is behind you.
No. This was the 747. So they're upstairs.
Oh, you're on the upstairs.
No, we're downstairs.
All right.
And
The pilots are upstairs.
Yeah. The pilots are up.
I've only like 3 times ever flown first class international. So
Okay.
I'm picturing it now.
So yeah, it's the very, if you can imagine, the 747, the pilots in first class are upstairs.
But those are they have the pods where you can lay down flat.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Did anyone go to sleep during your stay?
No, this was business. This wasn't first, right?
Right. First is,
So
I think,
these
is upstairs,
people-
right? Yeah.
These people, you're in the front of the plane, so
Yeah.
they can only look at you. They got Clockwork Oranged
Exactly.
into comedy.
Yeah. We prop there. Thank you, AJ. That's exactly the analogy we were looking for.
Beautiful. All right, let's get back to AJ.
Yes.
He is our guest. I'm going to make a cocktail, but tell me your story on how you met AJ.
That's it. Yeah, AJ was doing comedy,
At the Drover's Dog.
At the Drover's Dog in Amsterdam, and
Which is what? That's like a bar, right?
it's a restaurant.
Yeah, Australian. All Australian.
How long was it before you dropped my name?
That was none of the time, actually, and I mean,
And that was extremely uncalled for.
we got
That's your friend.
We talked a bit about military stationing. We talked more about your studies at that point.
Yeah.
And
Because I came here to study, and you asked me how I got here.
Yeah.
And I said, well, since you're an American, I said, I'm here on the GI Bill.
yeah.
And you said, well, how did you get the GI Bill? I mean, obviously you're in the military, and so I told you a little bit about how that happened.
And we can get more into that.
Yeah.
How?
Here comes Doug.
Because Doug has been intimating all along that our friend AJ over here has incredible stories to tell, that he's been through something.
Oh yeah. No,
yeah.
Why? How? What time are we?
I don't
at?
care.
We'll get to
I want to
him.
hear it.
First of all, there's going to be torturing children in a little while.
We're near The Hague, so all this war crime stuff coming up. If you want to transport me to The Hague for processing, we can do that.
Are you
after this,
serious?
but- Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, we're serious, but I still want to know how he got from Section 8 clinger getting out of the fucking military because he couldn't stand some of the shit they made him do over in Afghanistan or Iraq or wherever it was. Okay. Into Bisbee, throwing up gin all over my driveway after he got so drunk. He told us all
I
these
spilled
stories.
the beans and my stomach.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and then he got into comedy. I haven't seen him since he left. I'm going over to Amsterdam to go to school with Extreme Elvis. Somehow they ended up in the same school. That's another story for another time.
Footnote.
Yeah, footnote. Ask Doug about Extreme Elvis. Continue, Doug.
All right, let's go back to where are we? Are we in Iraq or Afghanistan?
Well, okay. So I joined the army in 2005.
10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago. And went to basic training, which was ironically my first stand-up gig. I was forced by a drill sergeant to do 10 minutes.
Grab a joker.
Yeah.
How did that work? Hang on. I know I'm pouring a drink over here, but how do you get forced to do...
All right. Well, when you're in basic training, there's lots of different modules of training that happen, and different teachers have to show up. But because it's the army, those people are also doing other things. And when those people show up late for some reason, you have a classroom full of 18, 19, whatever year old privates and drill sergeants, and the drill sergeants are bored. So they say, somebody get up and tell a fucking joke, or you're all doing push-ups until we laugh. So somebody has to get up and tell a joke. So I just would stand up and tell a joke, but the only jokes I could remember were from like the old truly tasteless jokes, the black cover, white lettering stuff.
Those books that everybody had.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, my buddy Kenny and Boy
Dead
Scouts.
baby jokes.
It was, and so every joke I told was a dead baby or a child molestation joke. And there was one drill sergeant who thought I was the funniest motherfucker in the world. And he hated it because I could make him laugh, and he didn't want the new privates to see him as other than the scariest motherfucker alive. So anytime I opened my mouth, he smacked me upside the head, and except when we were waiting for something to happen and he needed a joke. So
Tell me one of them jokes, Private
All right,
Agent.
segue that into torturing children.
all right, where can I? Well, child molestation, and yeah, we'll get there. So yeah, we're out on a field exercise, and there's I'm in the wood line with my squad, and we're just starting to make our lunches. We have those shitty field rations, and I'm waiting for my food to heat up, and Drill Sergeant Zapata peeks his head out of the tent and says, "Let's get over here." So I run to the tent, and I go inside, and it's just filled with officers and like senior level enlisted people. There's a captain, another captain, a bunch of African American female training sergeants, and the drill sergeants.
And I'm sorry, we're still in basic training here, right?
Yeah, this is in Oklahoma.
Warrant officers and stuff. Right?
Oh yeah, all that,
yeah.
all those guys. And I get in there, and I'm, standing stiff at the position of attention, and Drill Sergeant Zapata says, "Hey, tell us some of those jokes you know. We're bored." And I was like, Jesus Christ, man. There's women there, there's officers, there's what, and I was like, Drill Sergeant, I don't think this is very appropriate. Tell the fucking jokes, Private. Roger. So I say, all right, well, my name's Private First Class. I just flew in from the wood line, and boy, are my arms tired. Tell the fucking jokes, Private. And so I do 10 minutes
Wow.
of dead baby and child molestation jokes.
Yeah, truly tasteless.
I win over every one of the African-American female training sergeants.
Yeah.
I even win over the Puerto Rican executive officer who barely speaks English. And most of the drill sergeants are playing with their phones, but Drill Sergeant is on the floor rolling around holding his sides. Like a little too much. And I know something...
Finally, he can let himself go.
Something weird is going on. And the captain, the guy in charge, is completely stone-faced. And I finish up, and I was like, all right, well, I'm done. You've been a great audience. I'm going to go enjoy my lunch. Before I can leave the tent, Drill Sergeant says, "Hold up, Private. Make sure you wish the captain congratulations on the birth of his new baby daughter."
So to recap, dead baby jokes.
Dead baby jokes and child molestation jokes for 10 solid minutes. And for the next 10 minutes, the captain regaled me with a whole tirade about how I should be gang raped in prison for the rest of my life and how I was the worst human being ever. And to which I just said yes.
And
yes,
that was
sir,
your
Roger,
first
sir.
review.
That was my first. That was
Any extra feedback you could give me would be very welcome. Thank you, Captain.
And then I went outside and ate my cold food. And so then a little bit more than a year later,
Smash cut.
I went to Iraq.
Hang on, I was going to say we've got to be around the 30-minute mark. We should take
We're well past it. 51.
All right. Oh fuck! All right, let's take a quick break, and then you can throw in. Do you have a sponsor?
No.
All right,
We're
we'll
waiting
make
for
one up.
sponsors.
Well,
Sponsored by
let's
Gordon's
take a
Gin.
quick break. I have my wrong notes. I have notes from my show instead of the notes.
Do you need to do a sponsor?
No, but we always throw in
I'm
a fake
sponsored
one.
by Kinley
But can we
Bitter
just
Lemon.
pause it?
Sure.
And
Stay with us, ladies and gentlemen. AJ will return with his story after this quick break.
Hey, faggots, listen. We have merch. We have a donation button. And I don't like to ask you to do that, but we just got some fucking numbers where we could actually do some advertising. And I don't want to do it. But Chaille could actually make really good money if I start doing advertising. I'd rather you buy some merch or donate when I say that. Because I hate to be the guy that says, you know what, I'm going to turn down that money. I would not even take. That would be for Chaille. We just get drunk and talk into microphones. This is not like this is a lot out of my day. But we got to keep fucking Chaille in business. Buy merch or else. Stamps. What? And now back to the podcast, as I'm saying.
Walk right in, head right down, and then let your mind roll on.
And we're back.
The Doug Stanhope Amsterdam Comedy Swapcast is brought to you by Delta Airlines and KLM Royal Dutch Airlines. And now, back to the podcast where AJ is about to torture children. All right, you go to Iraq.
Yeah.
What year?
2006, October of 2006. And,
And your basic training was 2005.
Yeah. So right after basic training, I went to my unit that I was going to deploy with, and I was in field artillery. So I trained to help shoot giant cannons, giant bullets at things that we couldn't see. So
Artillery.
Yeah, artillery, right. And I was the guy who did the trigonometry to get those bullets where they were supposed to go.
Yeah.
But in training, our unit, our brigade, our larger unit, sucked. And so we got taken out of the rotation.
What was your record?
Our record,
2 and 6.
our record was 7 Doctors Without Borders
Wow.
Or
zero,
Canadians.
and 0 terrorists. No,
But that's actually good to hear that if you fucking miss, the army notices and stops you.
They put you in the back of the line.
Yeah?
Wow.
But so we were sitting around Fort Riley, Kansas, waiting for a new mission because we couldn't do the one we were supposed to do.
Is that like getting sent to Siberia?
That's like
For
getting
the
sent
United
from
States?
from the major leagues down to
Not even
the
AAA.
B league.
Yeah.
The Bisbee killer termites?
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm sorry, I have to ask another basic question. How did you get into this? Because were you National Guard, and then it's like, whoa, what am I doing being
No,
deployed?
I was in university.
Okay.
I was studying philosophy and religious studies, and I completely burnt out on school. I got depressed. I skipped classes, skipped work, watched Band of Brothers until I lost my mind, and then I enlisted and left after dropping out of school.
So it's Tom Hanks' fault.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was just thinking the same thing. It's from that movie, right? No, it's like fucking Bill Murray.
Yeah, Stripes.
It's
It's
Stripes.
Stripes.
It's Stripes.
It's
Yeah.
Stripes.
Parks his cab.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
REM in that video. He just parks his cab on the bridge, fucks up traffic, and joins the military.
Yeah. And
I'm gonna have to, if you put on Everybody Hurts and Stripes at the same time. Sorry,
they sync up like Pink Floyd and Wizard of Oz.
Sorry, AJ, continue.
So anyway,
Yeah, so we're sitting around waiting for a mission, and some super scary dudes in civilian clothes show up, and it turns out they're from Special Operations Command, and they ask for all the people with security clearances. And we go to an office, and they say, okay, we're going to tell you a thing. If you don't like it, you're free to leave. And if you stick around, we've got a job for you. And so they told us we need people to manage a government black site for detainees in Iraq that get grabbed by special operations people. And
so
Yeah.
before you go any further with this shit, AJ, because I just want to make sure that you will not be prosecuted for what you're about to tell us. Because as soon as you say black ops and guys in suits, and because what's about to follow now,
Yeah.
I'm sure is going to be fairly amazing, but unsavory and maybe even illegal.
And I don't know if you edit this podcast at all, but I would edit out his last name when he said private. But
They'll figure it out.
yeah, no, as long as I
I think
don't
we
give-
should edit out his last name. Let's just call him AJ.
if you want to, yeah,
Yeah?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's I signed some non-disclosure agreements, but as long as I don't tell like certain dates and places, we're good.
We got us a regular Edward Snowden on our hands.
Yeah,
right.
much poorer.
All right, look, dude,
All right, so-
if you feel comfortable, continue.
Yeah. So so a couple people left, and but the rest of us got a bunch of training from some military police and detention center specialists and all that stuff. And
training in what?
Oh man, like how to do forced cell moves. Like if you've got a prisoner who's being unruly, how to like put on all the riot gear and beat the shit out of them and take them from one cell and throw them in another one. And
Like the Supermax in Denver.
Exactly.
Where they have to do cell extraction.
exactly.
Wow.
And
you're in Kansas still at this point.
in Kansas, yeah, we got Arabic language training. All kinds of stuff, basic jujitsu, like, all the things that we might need. Yeah. How to touch people on the face so that they bend to your will. All that crazy shit. And, so then, we get this training and then we have a break for a few months and then we deploy and we get to a place in Iraq. I'm not going to say where. And it is,
It's not Iraq anymore. It's the Islamic State.
Yeah.
They won.
Can I ask?
yeah,
Is this a place we've heard of? Without mentioning names?
with a little bit of digging.
Right. Okay.
Just a little bit.
All right.
And it was a base hidden.
It's not like we have listeners in Iraq going, was that here? Was that my hometown? Drop my name.
Give a shout out to an area code. Yeah, no. So it was a base hidden within a larger base. And, it was on a flight line so that we could have the helicopters and planes come and go whenever. And, from day one, we got trained up by the unit that we replaced. And it was basically a, 50 cell unit, everything, solitary, where it was, like 6 feet by 4 feet room and a concrete bed and nothing else. And everything we
Not
learned.
a shitter.
No,
Wow.
no. And, so the way you treat the prisoners.
Hate to call back my locked up abroad bit.
Yeah.
but yeah. Exact same conditions just outside the walls.
Yeah. And everybody who was interred there, was on a randomized bathroom, shower, and food schedule. So the people were completely divorced from time. They had they never knew what time it was. They never knew what day it was. They had
Lights on all the time.
lights on all the time.
They could be in Las Vegas for all we know.
Oh, well,
In the
part
casino.
part
where
of
they do
what-
the same thing.
Part of what we did was when we were bringing people from the flight line to the place, we talked about places where they couldn't possibly be. So a lot of it was like joking around like, man, Cuba's cold this time of year. But, like complete mindfuck from day one.
And you're doing this.
Yeah, every day.
But all right, because knowing that you're doing stand-up comedy now, I used to do fraud telemarketing before I did stand-up comedy. And
Is that what you call the infomercial prank calls?
No. I actually we rip people off on the phone.
Fraud
but-
telemarketing.
Yeah, boiler room scam.
Wow.
Hey, you won a big prize. It's bullshit. But I was as creative in it, doing a bad thing as I am doing a good thing now. And so I wonder if you were like,
Oh yeah, it was a performance opportunity. Yeah, when you
you
got
realize-
you know you're fucking people.
And you're like, I could be good at this.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
But
my
that's
point.
scary.
No, but actually, that's an excellent question, which was, AJ, while you were doing this, you were doing it, I think, to the best of your ability, right?
absolutely.
And were you taking, and I'm not, without judgment,
Yeah.
were you taking pride in the job?
Yes.
Yeah.
To a point. Because no matter what you're doing, like you still want to be good.
It. He
Yeah.
that was my line. Cuba, that was my line, and he fucking bought it. Like the green room of torture camp. He's like, everyone's going, AJ, you're fucking man. I want to be as good as you.
Yeah. So, and then we would bring them in from the flight line. We would fly out on helicopters in the middle of the night, pick up dudes whose houses had just been blown up by Green Berets or Navy SEALs
By
or
good
whatever.
artillery people.
By people who could do what they were supposed to. And we would, hog tie them, throw them in a helicopter and take them to where we were. And they would get the heavy metal music at deafening levels and strobe light treatment. The fucked up part, the part that, like,
We're just getting to the fucked up part.
well, yeah.
No, not yet.
The
Not
philosophically fucked up part was, after a while it started to get to me that, not only were we doing this, but there was a military lawyer on site and a military psychologist on site all the time, like checking against these things. They were always like spot checking, like, are we crossing a new line? Are we just getting close? Or is this, because this was at a time where
The lawyers rewriting the Hippocratic Oath.
and so they were there to make sure that we were, getting close to the line, but not passing the line. And so these guys would get processed, they'd get their jumpsuits, they'd get thrown in a tiny cell, and then the mind fuckery would begin. And
of course, when you say processed, we don't mean anything like due process.
No, of course not. It was,
they were in a hole and they were staying there as long as
it took.
Yeah.
How long were you there total?
I was there for 366 days.
But who's counting?
Yeah.
Zinga.
Wow. But so what, give us an idea of, do you have any idea why? Did any of these guys like get let go? What is the process?
Yeah, well, what it was this was the mission for our particular group involved foreign fighters. So they wanted,
i.e., all fighters, because you're in a foreign country.
Well, yeah. Well, they wanted to round up the non-Iraqis who were fighting for Al Qaeda or in one of the militias.
Okay.
And
like mercenaries, basically.
and take care of. Well, you got people coming from all over the world
Jihadis,
because this is like spring
Al-Shabaab.
training. Right. This is spring training.
Sorry, I'm just reading this fucking ISIS book, so I'm trying to drop in some knowledge I memorized.
For them, this is spring training for what they're going to do in their home countries when they get back. And that's just who we dealt with. And so they get their jumpsuits, they get thrown into a cell, the feedings are randomized, the showers are randomized, the bathroom breaks are randomized, and that's how we lived for the time that we were there. And yeah, we had a room that had leather couches and a big screen TV. I've seen Darkman 2 or 3 about 15 times because there's nothing to do when you're waiting to feed mujahideen except watch terrible, shitty movies that you can get in Iraq. And
but you also watched some terrible shit.
Yeah,
because you broke. They broke you. They didn't just break them.
Yeah.
In fact, they empowered them. If they did get out, they're fucking fighting with ISIS right now.
Yeah, or were they co-opted?
Those guys, they don't just sit around and do nothing. Like, they had interrogation sessions, they had polygraph sessions, all this stuff. And
was there waterboarding too?
This was after waterboarding, so waterboarding was not going on at this time. They had to be more creative than just dumping water over people's heads with washcloths on them.
Yeah, they advanced their game.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to take part in this. From
we were,
stories I remember, you had
we
to
were
supervise.
there as a supervisory and control situation where we're either like sitting outside the rooms or watching on cameras from a close by area.
So I'm gonna, draw a parallel. This just jumps out at me, but Nuremberg. When you've got guys saying,
I was only following orders.
I wasn't, dude. I was just the manager.
Right. So the question was, I think the question that you're leading to here, Greg, is what's going through your head the whole time you're doing this? Are you thinking this is
does
okay?
Break at some point.
Well, yeah.
I know the story. I'm guiding him.
At first, everything's cool because you're dealing with bad guys or the associates of bad guys who know shit that we need to know. Before I got there, Zawahiri, Mr. Big Name, he had been captured and they showed us the freezer where they kept his dead body for a week before CNN knew what happened and all that stuff.
Zawahiri or Zarqawi?
Zarqawi.
Zarqawi killed in 2006. Yeah.
Right. So,
BAM! Fucking knowledge from that book, baby. Did you hear that?
Motherfucker knows it's Mujahideen.
Yeah, Zarqawi.
So,
Bin Laden and Zarqawi didn't get along.
No.
Zawahiri,
They were not bosom
pussy.
buddies.
No.
That's why.
Because he wouldn't follow orders.
That's right.
Right.
So, so we're rolling up his network. They cut the head off and now they're trying to roll it up. So we've got all these bad guys, quote unquote bad guys, and they were doing crazy stuff to him. There was one guy.
Graphically?
There was one guy who had been some sort of colonel in the army, and he was an old school dude, and his interrogator was a woman, an American woman, and she worked with a Iraqi woman who was an interpreter. And we got this dude the first day he got interrogated. They put him in a room where half of the room was wallpapered with images of Iraq and America before 9/11, and then the other half was wallpapered with images of bombed out Iraq and all the horror of 9/11 afterwards. And they handcuffed him to a chair and made him sit there, and these two women sat there and ate hamburgers and drank Coca-Cola and read glossy women's magazines and ignored him for 2 hours. By the end of the 2 hours, they didn't say a single word to him. They called us. We picked him up. We put him back in his cell. 10 minutes later, he was crying like a goddamn baby and spilled his guts.
Okay.
What the?
That's some yeah.
And you
That's
have
some
to.
new world torture right there.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that today, how great it would be, because all the news that we have on CNN 24 hours is fucking ISIS this and ISIS that.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be great to capture one of those jihadists, and force him to have fun. Like, bring him to Disneyland, make him drink, make him go to titty bars, and see if he can ever go back to his jihadi life.
Yeah.
Okay, here's this room. Put him in this room at the Hilton and go, this is yours for a year, and see if he returns to the jihad.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And yet,
But
I'm
dude,
also.
but that's what a lot of these dudes, all these fucking Saudi princes, they have amazing lives. That they double lives, because they come over to the West and they indulge in anything that they dare to indulge in, because they have a lot of money and they do all kinds of crazy shit. I mean, the Sultan of Brunei, who's supposed to be a devout Muslim, I mean, he has, whore festivals of Western women brought over,
there. Beyonce singing, and it's not on our tour schedule on our website.
It wasn't on my T-shirt the Beyonce T-shirt I got.
I mean, somehow they've managed to compartmentalize this somehow, so they can go back to it, is what I'm saying, in their minds.
At what point did they break you? Like, because again, you have some creativity going into this. Like, hey, I'm a higher mind. I can fuck these people over,
Right?
But like over the course of
However long I was there.
Yeah.
However long I was there. We'll be safe about that.
What were the events that started to break you down where you're like, this is just fucking inhuman?
There was
It's not the Coca-Cola and glossies.
there was a super nice old guy that we brought in and put into a cell, and he and I kind of bonded in a way.
Uh-oh.
And
He's starting to be human.
I was just nice to him. He was kind of nice to me. And then one day, one of the interrogators comes to me. He was like, "Hey, did you hear about the new guy?" And I was like, "No, what?" It's like, "Yeah, he used to be an Iraqi general during the Iran-Iraq war." And,
in the 80s.
In the 80s. And he, cooked and ate one of the children of his enemies. And this guy was like this sweet grandfather figure that I would like purposefully try to interact with because, I was looking for a taste of normalcy, right? And then after that, anytime he needed to go somewhere, he would complain about the food or like, "Can I get more food? Can I get more food?" And
now
like,
you got every time he's asking for food, you're thinking,
yeah. And I would say, "Look, I'm sorry, we're fresh out of baby today. We can't have like." And
Did you actually say that to him?
Yeah.
And how did he react to that?
And he, like, at first he didn't quite get it because he, like the English-Arabic barrier, but then he started to understand, and then like the whole relationship with him and the other people changed because he had kind of cultivated this nice relationship with other people. But about the same time, we brought in a couple of kids who were,
Kids.
like 11, 12, just
as
a couple of
prisoners.
young boys, as a couple of prisoners, and like orange jumpsuits that went past the ends of their fingertips, and they're rolling their pants
I'm dressed in my
up.
dad's jumpsuit. Look at me. Oh.
And they were paying
take your
for
kids to work.
they were paying for the crimes of their fathers.
Yeah.
And they were old enough to be around when the fathers were planning things, and so they heard things, and so they were fair game in the minds of the people who were running this place. And that really, really got to me. Like, it still gets to me. I'm trying to,
Here, I'll make you
Stay
a drink.
clear.
You got fucking deep.
appreciate it.
I mean, AJ, when you saw that they were bringing in a bunch of kids and you saw these kids sitting there, I mean, what went through your head?
At first, it was business as usual, but then, like, interacting with I couldn't participate in the heavy metal and the loud, the strobe lights and all that stuff. And every day I would interact with these kids, and they would ask, when are we going home? When are we going to talk to someone? When can I see my father? When can, and we could see what these kids did because there were cameras in every cell. So we could see that they were like trying to play. They were doing push-ups. They were praying. They were doing all the things that kids do. And it ruined me. And then when I saw one of the interrogations of the kids who, they maximize things psychologically. So there was a gigantic man, like bodybuilder.
And if I remember this right, it was they had Australians.
Yeah, it was
Americans couldn't do this.
Well, I don't know if it was a legality issue, but it was like coalition partners. So we had all sorts of people, special operations people from all over the globe participating in this. And so there's this kid, and he's backed up against the wall, and there's this fucking gigantic monster Australian dude just screaming at this kid, trying to break him to get the information.
In what language?
In English.
Okay.
In English, because that was the thing. Like, the point wasn't to be rational.
Right.
The point was to reach an emotional threshold.
And was there a translator at this point? I'm sorry.
Once the kid broke, then they would bring in the translator to get the full story.
Because I'm imagining if you're watching this, then you're thinking like, come on, there has to be some separate protocol for these kids.
Yeah, I mean,
but it seems like there wasn't.
No, there wasn't.
Jeez.
It was just the psychologist and the lawyer who were making sure that if this popped up on CNN somehow, that the blowback would be manageable. And I stood outside the door, and while this Australian dude just laid into this kid for 45 minutes or an hour until he was just a puddle of flesh and tears, and then I put him back in handcuffs and took him back to his cell and threw him in there, and we waited for something to happen. And at that point, I went out and I smoked a cigarette, and I thought, like, I need to do something. Like, I need to call the first thing that came to my head was, I need to send an email to Seymour Hersh at the New York Times and tell him exactly what's going on. And then I remembered, my friends who were there working, like the people that I worked with every day, who I knew and loved, and I knew they had my back, and I knew that if I blew the whistle and it came down, that not only would I ruin my life, but I would ruin the lives of my friends. And so I made a decision in that moment not to say something. And that's the worst part of the whole thing that's the penultimate worst part. The ultimate worst part is, now when I look back on it, I don't know that I would have made a different choice.
If you're being brutally honest.
Yeah.
I think he is.
And
Yeah.
That's deep. I believe that's the level that Doug Stanhope was trying to get to.
How did you get out of this, man?
Yeah. And at what point was this? Because you mentioned like 366 days.
Yeah.
But this was after that?
This was halfway through.
Oh boy. So you had like a whole half a year left of this.
Yeah, well, there was a cycling going on because the different branches of the military have different deployment times. And so my unit trained a different unit to take care of us, and then I went to a different place and did security for special operations people who were doing direct action missions out in the community. And there's a whole separate group of fucked up stories of that, of British troops beating a dude to death behind me while I'm on a machine gun looking out into Indian country, or there was a dog who ate a dude's face.
Sounds like this is going to be a two-parter. Let's take a break, have a cigarette, and we'll get back with part 2 of the Doug Stanhope Amsterdam Comedy podcast of funny.
Yucking it up. We're yucking it up here. AJ, thanks, man. We'll hear more from you in a minute.
Thanks.
Hi, this commercial is actually something that we recorded after the fact because we go, this has to be in the podcast. We'll be back to the podcast in just a second. But what happens when they fuck sheep?
Yeah, so you've got these detainees, and it's a culture that values sex within marriage. But there is this whole tradition of hadith in the Islamic culture, which are these
the sayings of the prophet, is the hadith.
Sayings of the prophet outside of the Quran, right?
Yeah.
And
We're talking about fifth base, or
I'd call it the ace of base, but that might be offensive to some of our Scandinavian listeners.
All of them.
But yeah, so they have all these rules about which animals you can and cannot fuck.
Is this in the Quran?
This is outside of the Quran.
It's in the hadith.
It's in the hadith.
Sayings of the prophet.
Yeah. So,
Which I cannot confirm, but you're saying that, but must be something there. Go on.
yeah, well, I'm working on a master's in religious history, so
you know.
Yeah, I'll qualify that. Yeah, so we've got these guys who are unmarried that are detainees, and we have to take them on their bathroom breaks, and they're squatting over a hole in the ground, and when they piss, there's stuff that comes out afterwards. When you've spent your entire load-blowing adult life from the age of 13 on fucking a goat, there are colors of viscous fluid that come out of your dick
After.
that you cannot find in a box of Crayola crayons. It is... it's horrifying. I've seen more naked Arab men than a Japanese businessman with a fetish. It's it's horrible. I don't want to see another dick with baby shit golden yellow brown Gulden's mustard coming out of it for the rest of my life.
Wait, what is this, like goat VD? What is that?
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah. And yeah, some of my buddies who didn't have the security clearance, who were working in the towers, the guard towers, the little Iraqi boys with the goat herders and the sheep and stuff would come up to them and tell them, and they would talk and they would trade cigarettes and stuff, and they'd say like, oh yeah, if you're gonna fuck a goat, fuck this one. Don't fuck that one. This one doesn't kick. That one kicks. And this one's nice and tight, and this one's no good. This one's played out. Yeah, goat. This is a slut goat. You don't want to mess around with her. But this one is okay. Yeah. Rank insanity.
You've been fucking all my friends, goat. You make me look like an asshole. I found out you're fucking all my friends. All right, let's get back to the podcast already previously in progress.
This is Bingo. You are listening to the Doug Stanhope Podcast.
All right, we had to take a quick break for cigarettes. They're always for cigarettes, and this podcast is sponsored by cigarettes on the Doug Stanhope side of the Swapcast and mineral water on the Amsterdam Comedy Podcasts.
Mineral water. It washes the greasy fats from your mouth.
And to be honest, it's not mineral water; it's from the tap, which
shit,
is healthier. Anyway.
They probably put minerals in it just to trick you. When we left, this is not a two-parter. We're just gonna this is just a long fucking podcast. So when we last left you, Ajay had his back turned while British soldiers.
Hello.
No.
don't believe
Hey,
so.
that was a special guest star. Some guy from the front desk asking a weird question because I keep my door open in my hotel. You have moved now from Iraq to a different place in Iraq?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. And I'm staying in some houses that are reserved, that had previously been reserved for Saddam's best political friends and visitors. We had these chateaus where every one of them had a pool that was now filled with disgusting, scummy water. And we had British Special Forces guys and Army Rangers, CIA, the Iraqi guys who were being trained by the CIA, Delta Force, Green Berets, all these fancy motherfuckers.
So you've been upgraded.
Yeah, we definitely got upgraded. Yeah, it was nice.
Yes, and Gregory Shapiro did a 20-minute set during an interrogation.
It was a great gig, actually. I can't believe it.
You would not believe how many people broke when Shapiro closed. It was,
I'll tell you everything.
But somewhere else in Iraq, yeah. Okay.
There's one day I was working and I'm in a tower. I'm behind a machine gun. I'm looking out into Indian country. And
I'm sorry, Indian country?
Oh yeah,
You're in Asia at this point. Let's not get.
Yeah, that's just some of the nomenclature of the place when you're looking out
Wild
into
West.
Yeah,
you're in Fort Apache and you're looking out for the Injuns.
That's what everybody liked to say. So facing out, the Brits come back with their latest group of captures and such. And one of the guys that they got had killed a British soldier. And so they decided to interrogate him with their fists. And he was in like a little...
Wait, I know this story. He fell.
Yes, he fell several times in a one-story building where there were no stairs. And and he didn't give up any information, but he did give some blood to the cause. And so I listened to the wet thumps of and screams of justice. And then when they got to a point just before the point of no return for this captured fellow, they threw him in some sort of vehicle and took him off to the hospital. And that was Tuesday.
Well, I'm glad to hear they control themselves.
Yeah, well, they're,
Crap.
yeah. So, but when I was at this new place, I wasn't the lowest guy on the totem pole, but I was pretty close to the lowest guy on the totem pole. So when details like kitchen duty came up, when it's time to peel potatoes and wash dishes, I would have to do this. And it was a 24-hour detail. So I'd be washing dishes and peeling potatoes and cleaning the dinner room for 24 hours. And one day I had a dinner break and I'm sitting in the dining room area, and there's a group of Navy SEALs sitting there, and they're eating their dinner. I'm eating my dinner. There's a big screen TV in there, and there were several channels, but the one they kept it on was something they called Kill TV, and that was the helicopter and helmet camera footage from people who were out on missions.
Like live?
Live. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
like that, the what do you call it?
Before
the
GoPros.
Bluish shit where you watch,
yeah.
There's that famous footage where they killed the journalist accidentally.
Yes. It's like that from the helicopter or from guys who have cameras on their helmets. And whoever, like, you're watching this thing, but there's somebody in a control room
That's
somewhere.
extreme sports.
That
That's
is
a
very
GoPro
extreme.
on the end of your fucking M16.
If you play paintball or that bullshit with the little plastic BBs and you think you're a badass, you can go fuck yourself, because there are guys out there playing this with real bullets.
And it's still a game to them, and that's the scary part.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there and I'm just, eating my food, enjoying the time that I'm not washing dishes. There's a group of Navy SEALs eating their stuff, And some other guy comes in. He might be Delta Force. He might be CIA, whoever he is. He stops at the table of the SEALs, and he goes to one guy. He's like, "Hey, man, what's your dog's name?" Because every team has a dog handler. And he goes, "Oh, yeah, his name's, blah, 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 the Arabic
Otis.
word for, shadow."
Wait, they're saving the dog's name now. Yeah. let's keep him protected.
Yeah, sorry.
I can't drop
we'll
that
go with,
name.
Otis, Milo, whatever, Benji.
Some of the names have been changed to protect the innocent dogs.
The innocent dog's not cool.
In the
Yeah.
arms
Yeah.
of the angels.
My dog's name is Spuds McKenzie.
Okay.
So he goes, "Oh yeah, it's Spuds." And, he goes, "Yeah, that dog's a bad little motherfucker. He saved us last night." And he's like, "Yeah, he's good dog." A little bit of a pause. "Yeah, did he shit out an eyeball? 'Cause he ate that dude's whole face." And the Navy SEAL is just like, he's just eating, and he stops, and he kind of looks up and he goes, "No. I didn't see him shit out an eyeball today. I'll check later. When I take him for a walk."
Wait, he ate whose face?
Some mujahideen or innocent bystander or whoever was around when they went out on a mission a few hours earlier. And this was a dog that I was kind of like friendly with too, because, I'm out doing things and they would walk the dogs and feed the dogs. And I was kind of, again, looking
It's a
for something
dog.
nice.
He will eat meat.
Yeah.
Well, we had a friend that had his dog was getting his leg amputated, and our idea was after they amputated it, we were going to do a video of a cooking show. We were gonna trick the vet into saying we're doing this as a documentary and film the amputation, and then put Matt Becker in a chef's cap, where he prepares the leg like a cooking show, bakes it, presents it, and then feeds it to the dog. And the dog would have eaten it.
Of course.
And, of course, someone's girlfriend said, "No fucking way." And it ruined what would have been a billion hits on fucking YouTube.
Yeah, well.
But so
these dogs were great. They were so well trained. When they heard the helicopters going at night, they would start freaking out, tails wagging, barking, because they wanted to go work. And part of the training of these dogs was they would get guys dressed up in the clothing that the mujahideen would wear, and they would attack the dogs in this clothing that smelled like your typical Iraqi fight. Yeah. And so they, they
don't sell that scent at duty free with all the perfume and colognes they sell. They do not sell mujahideen.
Yeah, there's no Yves Saint Laurent mouge for the summer evening.
Eau de Alpo.
No, so this dog that I was friendly with, I found out ate a face. I knew some old dude who was a surrogate grandfather who ate a baby.
But this is stuff that you're now talking about. This story is something you're talking about on stage. We skipped the whole part about how you became a comedian since I've fucking known you, and you disappeared to Amsterdam weirdly, and now you're doing stand-up comedy and we're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
But you're doing this in your stand-up now.
Yeah, I've done a story marrying up the grandfather and the dog, and about, with comedic elements about, what happens when you're in a foreign place and you look for something that reminds you of home. You're looking for just a little bit of familiarity that you can latch on to make you feel normal, and about how, if something looks familiar, you don't actually know anything.
But AJ, you're sitting here across from us and you appear to be a normal, well-adjusted human being with what we call the standard moral compass, understanding the difference between right and wrong.
Yeah.
So I'm going to work under the assumption here, the fact that you're talking about everything that you did in Iraq is basically, this is a confession.
Oh, yeah.
You don't feel good about this.
No, absolutely. I've got 2 different therapists, a psychiatric doctor,
Over here in Amsterdam?
here in Amsterdam. Yeah, I've got a life coach that helps me, get through the day. I've got a whole bunch of pills.
And who's, I'm sorry, wow, you mentioned the GI Bill. So you're studying in Amsterdam with the help of,
Right.
the veterans,
Yes, George W. Bush is paying for this podcast right now, and me being over here studying history of religion as a master's
And
degree.
for the help that you're getting, that you just mentioned, from therapy to...
Yeah, so, this stuff kind of broke me, and the United States government has a if you break it, you bought it policy, and I've got a little bit of a pension and free health care for the rest of my days. And George W. Bush, wherever you're painting a shitty portrait of someone, I raise my vodka and soda to you, because
You're 5th.
Let's all raise a vodka and soda to George W. Bush. Here's the George Bush. Here you go.
All right. Broke it, you bought it. That's a fucking great. That's a great line to end on, isn't it?
I took it to Amsterdam, so.
And now you're like a comedian now, and I'm assuming that's part of your therapy.
Yeah, it's definitely therapeutic to talk about these things in a public forum. And
Exactly where I was just going.
yeah. And yeah, I've done stand-up comedy. I've been doing it for a little while, and I've got a show, a half-hour show coming up in the beginning of December 3rd or 4th at the Podium Mosaic for anybody in Amsterdam who wants to check that out. I'm not sure what it's going to be titled, something like War Stories or, Not a Hero Story, something like that.
You break it, you bought it.
You break it, you bought it, might be great. Yeah.
Well, we kind of just coined that for you accidentally. You break it, you buy it. Now you have to incorporate that line into the end in a clever way.
Yeah, Donald Rumsfeld said it.
You buy
and
it. Thank you, people.
I'm taking it. So, thank you to neocon assholes everywhere in America.
Well, you know what they say? All great comedy comes from pain, and so you have a whole future to look forward to. Thank you, Amsterdam Comedy Podcast.
Thank you, Doug Stanhope
Join
podcast.
Team Stanhope.
And
I thank you, and my therapist thanks
and
you.
AJ Beep thanks you. You got to get a stage name now so you can tell this shit for real. without-
Chelsea beef.
AJ Chelsea. AJ Manning.
I don't know if any,
Jesus.
I can guarantee you 6 people that will be at your show, and they're called SEAL Team 6.
They'll be laughing their asses off at all the wrong spots.
All the way to the private flight home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Hey, play the Mattoid.
Hey dude, what you gonna do with the boiling harpoon in your hand? Hey dude, what you gonna do with the boiling harpoon in your hand? Gonna go and harpoon my lady. She's rubbing noses with another Eskimo man. Gonna go and harpoon my lady. She's rubbing noses with another Eskimo man. Here I go. Hey dude, I guess you just harpooned your lady down. Hey dude, I guess you just harpooned your lady down. Yes, I harpooned her. I got her doing hanky-panky around the Eskimo town. Yes, I harpooned her. I got her doing hanky-panky around the Eskimo town. Here I go then. Ruska. It's a good time to come, there's not that many mosquitoes around. Gonna wait till Ruska. It's a good time to go and there's not that many mosquitoes around. Then I'm gonna go to Finland. Gonna get myself a reindeer farm by the Volga River. Gonna go to Finland. Get myself a reindeer farm by the Volga River. Gonna get myself a whole herd of beautiful Finnish ladies just making love all night long in the midnight sun. Whole herd of beautiful Finnish ladies just making love all night long in the midnight sun. Down south in Finland, sun always shines and Eskimo people are having so much fun. Down south in Finland, sun always shines and Eskimo people are having so much fun. Down south